Go for it.
Hello, folks. Welcome back to Chris White Reports. This is Chris in Cape Town, the mother city, here at the Taj Hotel. And I'm here about an energy conference that took place over the energy crisis, really the electricity crisis in South Africa. Joining me is the leader of the United Independent Movement, the president of that party, and a city councilor here in Cape Town, Neil de Beer. Neil, how gaan dit?
Baie goed, dankie. Okay, that
I
was
surprised him. I surprised him.
And he got the
Yeah.
he got it right.
Tell that to
Dit gaan
Ronaldo.
goed.
Tell that to Ronaldo Gros, who says I can't get that right.
Chris, what an honor.
Well, it's a pleasure to be back with you again, Neil. So let's talk about what happened today. So I just attended today, I listened to the event. This appeared to be a planning conference for a group of civic-minded individuals, some political parties, some non-government organizations, and some people from business and industry who are concerned about the electricity crisis and trying to look for a solution to get the government's attention. Would that be a fair description?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. We're done. No.
Chris, I think a woman is only as good as her word.
Okay. I'll accept that.
When you give a word which culminates into a promise, you must deliver.
Okay.
Here's a very weird situation we have in this country, where a promise was made to our people, ons mense, that we would receive power, electricity,
Political power.
and energy,
Okay.
which is the physical provision of a state-owned enterprise called Eskom. We know that Eskom was not created by the current government.
No.
It was created
And it was also
many years
monopoly under
Sure.
the previous government.
Always state-owned enterprise. But what we had was power.
True.
We had electricity.
It didn't reach everybody,
Sure.
but it was reliable. And then the new government of the new dispensation after 94 made an effort to deliver on a promise, to
Sure.
deliver it to the historically community that didn't get it. And it did okay for a little bit.
Yes.
But then state capture and BEE and racist policies all combined.
Sure.
And we have a disaster today.
Absolutely. Because what we are saying is you have defaulted on your promise and on your executive duty of ensuring that this country and its people must get a unabated, continuous supply of power.
What gets lost on people, Neil, is the following. See, folks, this is why this is the Indaba conversation, Chris. It's not a traditional interview. We're having a conversation here. We want to get news from folks. But what's lost on people is that the availability of safe, reliable, affordable electricity is essential to modern life. You can't live without it. 634 million Africans across the continent have no formal access to electricity today. The number's probably actually grown since the last time I got that statistic. But imagine a continent of 1.3 billion people with no electricity. But then here in South Africa, courtesy of Eskom, the most romantic country in Africa, where everyone dines by candlelight every night because of load shedding, at any given time, a lot of South Africans have no power.
But Chris, here's the effect. We are starting to use a phrase in this country and all of it ends with a word called shedding. Now let me go through it. And this is what South Africans need to realize. We started with load shedding. We are now going into water shedding,
Yeah.
because without power, pumps aren't driven to full reservoirs.
Sanitation systems fail.
So water shedding, and here's the last one, business shedding.
People just
So load shedding culminated in water shedding is culminating in business
And job shedding.
today. So what's rest waiting on shedding? The only one that's not shedding is the president, because he's shedding nothing. In actual fact, this is the problem we've got with the system where everybody in the society is equal, Chris. Some are just more equal than others.
Sound like George Orwell
Sure.
now.
No,
Some
it
things
is
are more
animal
equal.
farm. Because what are we as the citizenry of this country saying today? And that's why 3 months ago, the UIM got up and I said to this government, this president, this Minister of Energy, this Minister of Public Enterprise, enough is enough. We are drawing this line. Now, if Eskom is bankrupt, Chris, it's bankrupt, it's liquidated, it is a unfunctional, non-operational, non-savable entity.
Undelivering.
Say it.
Yeah. Just tell
Because
the truth.
an alcoholic can only redeem
When he
himself
admits the problem.
once he says, I'm an alcoholic.
Yeah. And that's the ANC needs. Well, listen, I do take exception to one thing you said, but look, just got to clarify this. You said the president is the only one not shedding. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that the president's been shedding a lot of dollar bills at Pala Pala. I'm just saying.
And shedding it under a mattress.
Apparently. I'll tell you what, I have stayed in my visit this time in several lodgings, and every time I look in the mattress for bales of money, I haven't found any yet. Just saying. Just saying.
It's not coming to us.
No, it's not coming to you, that's for sure.
Now, Chris, here's a fundamental statement.
Sure.
When we had political entities here today, we had civil society, and there's one thing that we all concurred. Ons is almal in die donker.
Yeah, we are
in the dark. But not only are we physically in the dark, but this country has kept us now on information in the dark.
Well, there's no transparency there.
So what do? Chris, what we've just done.
Okay.
A collective of political parties, civil society, got together today in Cape Town and said fundamentally, here and to here, no more. Action 1. The president of this country is the de facto executive head of this state and this institution. Eskom falls under an ambit of him. He cannot deny it.
Executive authority.
He has to take it the executive authority. And Chris, I'm sorry, if you gain through executive authority in the good times, you should remain that executive authority in the bad times.
Agreed.
You can't choose when you want to be president and it's going nice with...
And when you want to engage
Yes, sir. When it's not nice. You see, in my opinion, Chris, leadership rises when the seas are rough. Because a captain of a ship steering a vessel on a calm sea, even a child can do that. Has this executive, this man, this president, risen to the occasion? Cometh the man, cometh the hour. Problem is, 3 of our quarter of time clocks in this country can't tell you that because it has no power.
Well, you asked the question, Neil, about whether he's up to the task. Let me just put this in plain terms for the audience out there. On March 27th of 2021, the government, the ruling party, issued an emergency plan to acquire 2,000 megawatts of emergency power generation. Emergency. It is now February of 2023. Of the 2,000 megawatts, which, by the way, represents about 2% of the current, if your grid was working fully, 2% of your electrical output capacity in South Africa under Eskom. Nearly 2 years later, 0 kilowatts have been delivered to the grid. 0, not 1. And in fact, the biggest portion of 1,220 megawatts of that power, of the 2,000, was supposed to come from Car Powership. But immediately, people questioned the tender. They went to courts. It took months to sort it out. Then the environmentalists complained that it was going to destroy the planet. And now we're waiting for March 7th decision. If, in fact, the environmental ministry gives Car Powership approval to move forward from an environmental perspective, from that point on March 7th, it will take 14 to 16 additional months before the first kilowatt of power is delivered. And that's just about 1% of the power. It is insane. That's an emergency program. I don't think not only is Cyril Ramaphosa not up to the task, I think not only are you in the dark, I think the ANC's in the dark. They really have no idea what they're doing.
Now, Chris, in Afrikaans, I will repeat it.
Sure.
We have a very good saying that goes, hulle wil nie, hulle kan nie, en hulle gaan nie.
Will not.
They will not, they cannot, and they shall not.
They shall not.
Let me clarify.
I didn't know the last one.
Let me clarify.
Okay.
They will not, because someone's benefiting under the table. Fact. They shall not, because it doesn't suit their end game plan.
Fair
And
point.
they cannot, because they fired all the expertise necessary to recover such entity. Let's talk straight here.
Yeah.
Let's talk horses for courses.
Sure.
We were in such a hurry in this country in 94, Chris, to replace white with black, let's call it, that we started to shelve expertise because it was not the political norm or form. I was part of it in the ANC.
Yes, you are.
We were in such a hurry to rectify apartheid that we forgot one thing. You're removing wisdom.
Well, Julius Nyerere in Tanzania, he warned Robert Mugabe of the same thing.
Sure.
He said that when they took over and they embarked on a socialist program for Tanzania, and he did it for 20 plus years, and it was an abject failure. And he said the one lesson that he told Robert Mugabe about, he said, don't chase your whites away. We made a big mistake. They had the expertise, and we lacked it, and we were so far behind because we did that. And I think some of that's true here in South Africa. Certainly it's true in Tanzania and to some degree in Zimbabwe. But chasing folks away is not a good plan. I mean, whether you're Venda, Xhosa, Zulu, Ndebele, Afrikaner, German, Portuguese, English, Tswana, you're all South Africans. This is your country.
Chris, an expert in a subject has no boundary on race.
Exactly.
It is about your expertise.
Competence.
Now, we are both retired military men. We served in uniform.
Yeah.
We served in combat.
Yep.
We come from an organized structure where democracy does not exist.
No, it doesn't.
Did it?
No, it doesn't.
We are attacking Fallujah tomorrow. You are telling the soldiers that they can debate this with you?
No.
No, there's no
It
democracy.
doesn't work that way.
Now, how difficult is it for Neil de Beer, Chris Wyatt, Jaime, people that were in uniform, that now got up because of our discipline of civil society to move into a realm of politics? I can tell you, you interviewed me the first time I publicly announced I'm becoming a politician. You were there in the beginning. The question is, how have I suffered the inadequacy and the bureaucracy of being a man that wanted to plant a flag and realized that I first needed the permission, what color the flag is, the ground I needed to actually acquire, and then I had to actually have a permit to continue. This is the relevance of how we have complicated things. Here's the question to me. You are moaning and complaining, Neil de Beer, but next year you are running for president of this country as a candidate. Why don't you tell us your solutions?
Well, and that's exactly what this event was about today, was it not? To raise awareness of the electricity crisis and to come up with solutions from all of civil society. This wasn't a gathering of just political parties, but it was, as you said, civic groups and even leaders from the business sector. So you're all trying to come together and get folks' attention and come up with solutions. Because
Sorry, Chris, can I tell you one?
Please do.
In the absence of a plan,
And there's
whomever puts
because
down a plan,
there's a vacuum of leadership.
it's totally. So
It's like space.
So Neil de Beer has decided to call my own little cabinet with all my leaders, all my network, and all my support, grasping nearly more than 8 to 12 political parties, 4 civic organizations, legal expertise you saw here today from an advocate group, and an energy expert that is renowned in this country by the media, David Lipschitz, as that. Now, we didn't gather here to then tell everybody we don't have power.
We know that.
We know. We are reminded of it 3 times a day.
At
And while
least.
you've been here,
Yeah.
you've been also seeing it.
Oh, yeah,
But
no,
since
no
2008,
showers, empty power
you've
banks.
seen it coming.
I have. In fact, I predicted this many, many years ago, and I dealt with load shedding from Eskom back in 2008 in Botswana.
In Botswana. So, 1, my action will be immediately to take Eskom and to put it under public administration.
Okay.
Phase 1. Why? If we took it into public administration with oversight, Chris, we will stop the looting, the so-called sabotage, and the pulverization of a weak state enterprise. I will ring-fence it and secure it. With the caveat that the court gives us the judgment that a public entity agreed to by all parties will have oversight as well. Not just the internal process of oversight.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
that won't be
we don't
legitimate
trust
oversight.
it
That
anymore.
won't be oversight.
So number 1,
that's
oversight.
That's putting the fox in the hen house.
Sure.
Yes,
and
yeah.
saying freebie.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
oversight.
Yeah.
Want ons is gatvol van
And
steel.
then transparency.
Then absolutely. So no more tender rigging, no more theft of coal, no more diesel tender, no more truck transport contract. Stop it. So in other words, you've got a heart condition, you have a liver bug, but you are bleeding from your artery. So when you are lying on the ground, what is the first thing, knowing the man has a liver condition, has a cardiac problem, but he's bleeding from an artery? What do you do first?
Triage on the artery.
You stop it.
Yeah.
It's like saying to me, I'm in a boat, there's a hole, but bail water. Plug the hole. Otherwise, you're just bailing water. So I refuse as a leader in this country that one more rand that is really collapsing as well under the pressure will be spent on a dying entity if it's not soluble. But at least when we put it into public administration, we stop the bleed. In other words, the extra stuff, Chris, that has got nothing to do with OPEX or CAPEX. Because operational expenditure and capital expenditure is the modus operandi of running a business. But when you steal coal, when you steal diesel, when you forge tenders, that is not in the business plan, but it's seemingly in this country, it is, according to Zondo.
It's part of the operational
Sure,
plan.
it's now become systemic.
Yes.
So I want to, as president, cut it, ring fence it, and stabilize in triage. That's point one.
Okay.
Point two, I want to assess where are the factual problems, not ones that we are told are created by sabotage, diversion, incompetence. We have experts in this country, Chris, that we need to call back and tell them, we know you are grey and retired, but give us one more round. They are here, Chris.
Yep, and some are abroad.
And thirdly, lastly, in my submission, so one ring fence, two assess,
Yes.
real assess, and three, re-look at the current laws in this country that is provided by NERSA,
That's the energy
that
regulator
is
in
the
South Africa.
energy regulator, that actually gives the mandate to Eskom to be a monopoly.
And also sets the prices it can charge.
And
among
therefore,
other things.
if I can submit to court that these laws of making Eskom the monopoly is unconstitutional and currently stop service to the people of this country, then I can actually ask for the reversion of such law that will create the opportunity, Chris, of wind, solar, and water. You see, the difference is you can't steal the wind, you can't steal the sun, or you can't steal the water energy.
Well, you can't steal panels, so you got to guard those.
Sure. So will you agree? Those 3 points, there are hundreds of other people in this country that have got solutions to Eskom. Mine is not unique.
No.
Mine is unique because when I promised it, I planned it, I strategized it, and today all of us met here. I called you in. I'll tell you why. I wanted an independent satellite view,
An objective view.
an objective view from a person that is not politically partisan in this country or has such history, Chris. And today and tomorrow, whatever we decided here as the 24 people from all levels of country, we have taken a decision that we will stand up and put the lights back on.
And that's the bottom line with what's going on. But let me, I've kept up with everything you said, of course, because I'm an analyst on the energy industry, among other things. But some of the things you talked about, for the average person, it's kind of like, but the bottom line is this. Power is a disaster in this country, and it's crippling hospitals, incubators, chicken farms, transport, everything on the sun.
Absolutely.
Refrigeration of vaccines, of medicines, industry shutting down, the additional cost of running generators, of shutting down. It's across the board. All South Africans are suffering, and some far worse than others. The bottom line with this, Neil, is that you brought a group of people together today in Cape Town who are influential, who hope to put together a response and questions to the government, and then a plan on where we can go forward from this. All right.
We are committed as a unit.
Well, I think the ANC should be committed
Sure.
to an institution.
Sure.
To an institution.
But if not, we should make the court remind them of their commitment.
Fair point.
Because we the people, ons die mense, is die mag, we the people are the power. And what people have asked us, I heard a great sentiment yesterday. The evil of our world has decided that the tactic to drain out God and the light is just to create more noise. Chris Julius Malema, I call him Frikkie,
I call him Juju.
makes noise. Does he not?
He does.
Doesn't do much,
No,
but he makes noise.
doesn't do much for South Africans, that's for sure.
And while he makes noise, he clutters reality. My problem, and many people have asked me, what's your problem with him? I have no problem with him. I know him. He just disappoints me that he sells a lower IQ in public than what he actually is in private. This is a tactic of his. My problem, Chris, is that one or two of the people that he utters such noise to actually listen to him.
Yeah.
So when we sing kill the boer, kill the farmer, To him, he is substantially saying it's only but a song.
Yes.
But what if two people in that
You're
community
inspired by that.
are absolutely inspired?
Well, we've seen that. We've seen that.
Now, my problem is not just focusing on saying that power must go back in all rights to the people. But 2024 elections in this country is no longer like in 94 when we voted to change a country. 2024, we are going to vote to save a country.
Save South Africa. In fact, ladies and gentlemen, if you're not paying attention, the campaign for 2024 national elections in South Africa has begun. It has begun with the latest rounds of load shedding that got worse and worse as 2022 progressed, and people are paying attention to it now. The one thing we have to watch here is that the African National Congress is seeking a national state of disaster yet again after the Rona spicy cough one, which they, in my view, unconstitutionally extended month after month after month for 2 years. Why do they want this? Well, my view on this, in part, in no small measure, is it's an attempt to delay the elections in 2024, to give them breathing space to maybe come up with a solution to this energy crisis, because South Africans are hot full of what's going on here. And I have met Zulu, I have met Tswana, I have met Ndebele, I've met Xhosa, I've met Coloreds, I've met Afrikaners, English speakers, Germans in South Africa, all South Africans, and every one of them is angry, Neil. They're angry. And unlike in the past when I've been to South Africa, they're not just angry at the situation, they're angry at the African National Congress. And that bodes very poorly for the ANC in 2024. So the election's underway, whether you realize it or not.
Because the ideology of a dream, you know, many people say, but Neil, you sold us out.
Well, people say that on both sides of the fence, Neil.
You moved to the other side. No, I didn't. An unjust regime
Fair enough.
remains an unjust regime. Be it a national party
Or
an ANC. I get up as a human being. I'm blessed at least with a mind that I will look at the system, and if I follow such system, it's always weird that when the concept comes out, it's beautiful. The intention sometimes get confused in the delivery. I was part of the National Party government's machine.
and then part
In
of
the
the ANC.
army and in blue. And then I saw, but this is an unjust, incapable, and unsustainable war.
Well, that was the bottom line. Yeah,
It's
that's
not sustainable.
No.
Because trust me, I know if that war machine of the National Party wanted to continue, it was quite capable.
Oh, yeah, no. But
Make no mistake.
Yeah.
But it decided it's not sustainable. For how long?
Either financially or morally.
Sure, because the world closed on us.
Yes.
So when I saw this happening, I decided it's a day factor. This is the first time in public I'm saying this, Chris. Record this. When I noticed, as part of the operational system of keeping apartheid alive through a system of defense, of policing,
A police state.
I
Security
decided it's not sustainable. And how did I know that? It became clear to me that Nelson Rolihlahla Madiba Mandela would become president. Question then was, if Nelson Mandela was definitely going to become president in 1994 on the 27th of April, to whom white people, Chris, would Mandela speak about white people? You see, an ANC conclave would take over and make laws that will naturally impose or not on the previous regime and on the whites. No. So when we had the CODESA talk of Rufin Nel Cyril, it was a cluster of grouping who decided to talk of peace, and now the judgment is who sold out to who. Leave that. That's a day for another day.
Well, we can talk CODESA on another day.
Here's the question.
Yes.
When I aligned myself on the rhetoric of Nelson Mandela when he said that when I'm free, I will not seek a Nuremberg.
It's not
I
seeking
will
vengeance.
seek reconciliation.
Yeah.
Will we agree, Chris? That is what we bought into.
Yes.
This is the Kool-Aid that we were drinking. And my decision was immediately, move in there, talk to this man. Because when you sit around a barbecue, or we call it what you know, the word braai,
Yeah, barbecue sacrilege.
the only people that can actually tell you that the person braaiing the meat is burning it is those that are sitting at the braai.
Closest to the braai. Those sitting in the back have no idea.
No, you can't.
They're just getting drunk.
No, you can't phone Jannie and say, Jannie, Gert is busy burning the chops. Because Jannie is sitting at home. Maar Gert who's sitting there, I can say, hey Jan, ek braai die donders se chops. Yes or no?
Fair point.
So
fair
take
point.
that analogy, move it to Mandela, move it to the people surrounding Mandela. Do you think the average white Afrikaner was allowed at that braai? No, sir. But the MK member who proved that he was going to fight for
Had a seat at
reconciliation,
the table.
I sat at that table. Numerous.
Yeah.
And when they talked and said, "Jy wat, die wit is this and the white's that," I would say, but, excuse me, I'm here. I'm actually here. So you can't say whites.
Yeah.
And you can't say all whites.
Exactly.
Because, sir,
And by the same token,
I'm
you
here.
can't say blacks and all blacks.
you
know?
can't.
You can't generalize people
So
like
the
that.
question in tactic and strategy, Chris, whose was better? Nelson Mandela said in a statement, Chris, he found it weird that when people were sentenced to Robben Island, when they arrived on the island, people like Mbeki and people like him taught that person that's in Robben Island jail to speak Afrikaans. But when a new prison warden was assigned to Robben Island, they never taught him to speak Xhosa. So the people that were the prisoners could understand when the wardens were talking to each other what they were going to do to the prisoners. But when the Xhosas and the prisoners spoke to each other about what they're
wardens
going
couldn't
to do,
understand.
they had no idea. And Mandela turned around and said, who's the better strategist? We can debate that. But I'll tell you right now, no matter your dream, no matter your history, no matter your culture, no matter where you come from, one thing I know, 30 years later, that rainbow nation has turned back to black and white. More than we were before
More,
94.
exactly. No doubt about that. 100% I agree with you. That's an argument I've made for a long time, is that situation is worse today than it was in 92.
Indeed.
Indeed. And that is all a consequence of politicians who use it for political advantage. So, folks, we've kind of done a whirlwind tour here, talking about energy and then also talking about the history of South Africa. But let's bring it back to the topic that was at hand. Here in the mother city of Cape Town today, there was a conference. It involved political parties, including Neil's UIM, and civic groups, as well as leaders of business, to talk about this crisis that's confronting all South Africans. Whether you live in an informal settlement in Khayelitsha, or you live in Alexandria, or you live on a lush, verdant green plain somewhere in the Free State, because it is summertime and it is green in the Free State. I actually saw it. I can attest to that. Or you live on a farm, you live in a high-rise down at the Strand overlooking the beach. You have formal income, you have no formal income. This crisis affects you in more ways than you realize. And it's time for South Africans to unite, to come together and make the government be responsive to your needs. Remember, folks, governments didn't exist in the beginning. We as a people, everywhere around the world, formed governments to represent our collective needs, to address them. And typically that's external defense, that sort of thing, the common defense, but also policing and things like that. But in South Africa, because there's a parastatal, it's responsible for delivering electricity, and it's failing. It's failing because of patronage, it's failing because of corruption, it's failing because of theft and looting and poor decisions across the board, and it's been going on for years. And this group of people came here today to try to propose solutions and to come up with a letter to address the government, to put them on the back foot, and maybe take action through the courts against Eskom. Is that a fair assessment and summary of what we talked about?
Totally.
Okay, excellent.
You're a good
Excellent.
listener. But Chris,
Yeah.
Chris, I see questions coming.
Yeah.
And one of the most interesting things is we must always remember one thing, and you and I, in a way, on that we can agree.
Oh, and what's that?
That is that when you become a politician, you automatically become a servant.
Well, you're supposed to.
You don't become a powerhouse on your own.
You're supposed to be a servant of the people.
I spoke last night in a meeting, because on Thursday, Chris, is our opening of Parliament Sona.
State of the Nation address.
Now Friday, I'm doing my own.
Your response.
And I'm doing not State of the Nation, I'm doing a State of Truth.
There you go, folks.
And that is clear, because what this country now needs more than ever is the truth.
So where can people catch that? Will that be
So 10 o'clock on Friday, I will be live on my usual UIM Facebook.
Okay.
I have secured through my stunning great assistant Melissa has organized the hall. We will advertise it the minute that it is secured, won't we, Melissa? And I'm
It's
having
secured.
a live audience. I'm
It's
having a live audience.
So can you tell us where it's at?
Melissa,
It's at the IPIC Centre, Durbanville Spa Centre, Aurora.
IPIC Centre, Aurora, Durbanville Spa.
In
And
Aurora
we are
Centre.
posting it today, the final. We made a bit of a last week.
It's already posted.
But it's posted. We are having a live audience. I'm speaking about the state of the truth because it shall set you free. But one of the questions, interesting, and I want to land my plane, Chris,
Sure.
is the dynamic of the so-called big party and smaller,
Yes.
which I am.
The UIM is a small party, that's correct.
Small.
It's a new party, though.
Sure, it's new.
Yeah.
And Chris, well, we're in 3 metros as councillors.
Well,
And Chris, here's the
and when
question.
we talked,
Yes.
you said success would be
One.
one metro.
One.
So, okay.
So here's the thing. We will have 5 seats in Parliament minimum
Ooh.
next year.
Bold prediction.
I'm telling you now.
Bold prediction.
We will have 5. Why?
Okay.
The people are sick of the big ones.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the big ones who have been in Parliament for 30 years now
Are
and
unresponsive.
have done what? Whoa. You called an opposition, but you oppose nothing. No matter how you points of order and Madam Speaker, the ANC did with you what they wanted.
You went along for the ride.
So here's the question. When a small party starts, Chris, yeah, we started small, so did everyone else.
True. Well, the Democratic Alliance
Sure,
grew out of
sure.
the Liberal Party,
Sure.
very small,
Sure.
and grew to be the
So
largest
we've got
opposition
this
party.
narrative I want to just tell you in closing. This narrative that's being spewed now in this country of a small party is splitting the vote is irrelevant. Really? Coalition government in this country could be a reality. And if coalitions in this country, and I see a question says, what does Mr. De Beer think about this talk of a coalition between the DA and the ANC? It's true. They are talking. It's in the media. Question. You're going to sleep with the hyenas? And you think that you can turn a pack of hyenas as a singular lion? I think you can fight them for an hour. And then you will just submit. How can you even think, contemplate, where we stand on the side now, I'm calling it here, on the side of light. We are fighting a cabal on the other side of the ANC, the EFF, and every other party that has now shown patronage to them. This is the clear line in the sand. As a military man, draw it. Who's the enemy and who is the defender? Yes?
Yes.
We've got to come to that. Now, I'm sorry, I saw a Twitter the other day on a tweet,
Good tweet.
which sometimes appear with twats. I saw
From Twerps.
thanks, Elon Musk, South African. So, put in the punt. So, I saw a battle line group being drawn by a journalist. The people are here and the people here, the right and the left. They put it there. And it was UIM, IFP, DA, Freedom Front Plus. It was very Action SA, all here. And on this side, it was the ANC, the EFF, and etc., etc. Clearly, now in this country, the battle lines are slowly but surely being drawn.
Absolutely.
Not by us, Chris, but by the voters of this country.
Fair statement, fair point there, Neil. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for that. Let me wrap up here, and then and I'll shake your hand on the way out. So, folks, a lot of people in the past number of days, both on TikTok and on YouTube, where I've been broadcasting, have been questioning whom I'm speaking to, whom I'm visiting, and why I talk to certain people. You have to understand that I'm approaching this as an objective journalist, and I'm trying to bring you views from across South Africa from all sorts of organizations. The only party I have always vowed never to interview is the Economic Freedom Fighters, for obvious reasons. I've offered the ANC just to get their view, but they run like cowards and cockroaches from sunlight.
Because there's no freedom. They can't fight.
Yeah.
And they have no clue of the economy.
And they have no answers. But again, some people criticize me going to a concert with Steve Hofmeyr. Well, why? What's your problem? Others have criticized me for interviewing Bantu Holomisa. What's your problem? And some people say, why would you talk to Neil De Beer for whatever reason? Folks, if that's your view, then you're very closed-minded. What you had is an opportunity here to listen to what Neil has had to say about the reason we're here for this event, about energy. But beyond that, Neil shared some of his own experiences and where he's coming from. And you can decide for yourself whether you like that or dislike it. That's your prerogative. but it's my job as an independent, objective journalist to get the stories and deliver them to you so you have a chance to hear what people have to say. Whether you believe someone or not is entirely up to you. Now, when I do my broadcast, you know my personal bias, and I tell you that. But you also know that I'm objective. If I'm wrong, I'll admit it. If someone that I support is wrong, I'll call them out. Absolutely. And there you have it, folks, from the mother city of Cape Town at the Taj Hotel, just down the street from the sabotaged and arsonized torched Parliament, which I'm going to go make videos of here shortly. It's Chris Wyatt Reports with Colonel Chris Wyatt and my guest today, Neil deBeer from the United Independent Movement. Neil, bye-bye, donkey. I really enjoyed it.
And Chris, may I tell you, if there was a battle of the beards, you have won.
Well, yes, even though my beard, like the American economy and South Africa's economy, is in recession. Remember, it was down to my waist just a few weeks ago. Now it's all the way up here. So I look like Koos Delarey, except that Koos didn't have any hair on top. I had that. But now it's a bit more refined, and we've shortened it up. But thank you for that victory. Ladies and gentlemen, be sure to give us a like, share this with folks around social media. Thank you for your time. There'll be more coverage. I'm headed to Newlands, and we're going to do some footage of that iconic rugby stadium, which people want to reduce to rubble. So I want to get some pictures and video before it's all gone. And then later today, I'll be at Zorgvliet tonight. If anybody wants to come by the vineyard at Zorgvliet, which is between Franschhoek and Stellenbosch, you're welcome to join me this evening over there. Tomorrow, don't forget, at Bossa on Woodbridge Island, we have a meet and greet. Anyone wants to come, 5 p.m. You can come a little bit early if you're worried about driving in the dark. You can stay a little bit later if you're comfortable with that. Tomorrow at Woodbridge. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Bye-bye, Donkey. Kia leboa. And vielen Dank. You're welcome, Neil. And we'll catch you next time here on Chris Wyatt Reports. Cheers.
Bye-bye.